Hello, everybody. This is Stu Smith with another Tactical Fitness Report, and I'm very excited to have Adam LaReau back on interviewing with me. Last time we had Adam on, he did a segment that we call To, Through, and After, and it's really his story of how he was just an ordinary high school kid that became Merchant Marine Academy student, that was one of the first ones, if not the first, that ever became a SEAL officer out of the Merchant Marine Academy, and then went on and did great things for 13, 14 years in the teams at some of the highest levels of spec war. So um, that is Adam. And if you want to see or hear, we have both video and audio footage of that. I'll put a link in the description below, and you can see the whole thing about Adam's story, getting through buds and getting into the team. So I didn't want to beat that one up again since we have you on a second time, but what we're going to really focus on now is tactical fitness and the evolution that tactical fitness has taken in the last decade or more. And Adam is the co-founder of a company called O2X. And I'll let Adam explain a little bit about what O2X is, but they are on the forefront of tactical fitness and seeing the needs that the active duty operators need every day, not only to do their job, but also just to be a better, healthy person overall. So I've always broken down tactical fitness like this. And, phase one being you got to get to the training. So you got to pass a fitness test that might be rather competitive. So you got to score well. And then phase two, you got to get through the training, which is usually a hard selection, a boot camp, a fire academy, police academy, a little bit different training specifics on that one. But then phase three, and this is where O2X really thrives, and they focus on the active duty operator. So if you would, Adam, explain a little bit about the journey of your O2X process, the idea, and where you started and where you are now.
Yeah. Well, about 6 years ago now, we came across, obviously our background in the tactical space and the SEAL teams. We knew that there was occupational related challenges, hazards, they're out there. We felt it in the effects of, years of combat deployments over and over. And then when you're not deployed, you're training, you're preparing for that. So obviously wear and tear, there's performance challenges there. Consistency of performance is something that, listen, we all want to be more consistent with our performance and, limiting the margin of error there. Knowing that there's a ton of risk and uncertainty in our jobs, but like we need to do the best we can to prepare for these unknowns, mentally, physically, emotionally. And truthfully, I felt like we could have done, quite a better job on the education side. I'm like, you educate about sleep and nutrition, conditioning, resilience, managing stress. Then you give the operator all those tools to succeed during the 20, 30 year plus career that they have. And to be able to, obviously there's consistency of training. It's like shooting. It's like you're not going to be able to go through a shooting instruction course one time and then be an expert. You have to maintain, you have to consistently, work and hone these skills. But if you're not taking care of yourself, it's kind of like very similar to like a stress fracture, right? It's like you're pounding and pounding and pounding. If you're never recovering or really understanding that, you're going to get a break there. You're going to get a stress fracture. So how do we, succeed and thrive during your tactical athlete's career, whether it's police, whether it's fire, whether it's military, spec ops? It doesn't matter. It has to be also very customized to the job and the role of that person. That someone serving warrants on a nightly basis is really different than being a detective, than really being somebody on patrol, or a special operations operator. The demands on your body might be really different from a conventional unit versus combat support versus more administratively, and the same thing on the fire, EMS, Department of Correction side. So the framework is these are all different jobs. It all falls under that tactical umbrella, but we got to train very specifically for these jobs. And, we have to tackle it not just from a fitness standpoint, but from all aspects, head to toe, inside and out. A lot more there, but, we started 6 years ago, but with Boston Fire Department, which is, roughly over 1,500 firefighters. The cancer, the cardiac disease, the injury rates, the levels of sleep apnea, the mental health side, like there's all these aspects these are the occupational challenge, not only that we see in the fire service, but in every service.
Sure.
So we have a program that is very expeditionary. So we put boots on the ground where they are. So we take pride in not being a facility-based program, meaning that we're not trying to drag people to some brick and mortar place. We're going where the operators are. In
Nice.
my eyes, which is very, very important. You've seen that firsthand, Stu.
Mm-hmm.
We try to be very customized, and we try to their job very specific, very relevant, and then also the scalability side. You got to be able to hit. There's 1,500 people is relatively small now compared to the volume that we're dealing with. We got Mass Army National Guard, which is over 5,000 soldiers.
Nice.
They're completely decentralized, that they are all spread out all over the state. And the different units that we're working with from along the West Coast to down in Florida, Mid-Atlantic is really big for us throughout New England. You got to have that scalability factor there and be able to give people what they need when they need it.
So tell me this, where would you say the biggest hit for you guys is with O2X? As far as like which departments, or I guess which branches of service and which, area of tactical athlete do you deal with the most?
Well, it started out with fire. And, 6 years ago, it was interesting, right? Our background in the special operations community, we came in, we started talking about a program that, was going to tackle all these challenges, and the fire services was fairly antiquated in what they were doing. And so the holistic head to toe, inside out was unique, putting all those pieces together, and how they all interconnect and work to maximize your performance, but sustain the performance over a long career was just a different thought process. It really was. And traditions are good, right? Like we've seen it from a military standpoint. Sometimes those traditions prevent progress in certain areas. And so we really had an incredible leader here within Boston Fire who just retired after 34 years, Commissioner Joe Finn. And, he just looked at his members and said, hey, we have to do something more. The old humans over hardware, which was a special operations adage. It's like, you're going to have all these breathing apparatuses and, these different trucks and apparatus bays and, equipment, but you got to take care of the operator. And he did get it. So we started there, and he ended up becoming, after he led the charge on health, wellness, and safety, that he ended up becoming Fire Commissioner of the Year.
Oh, nice.
Out of all 220 top cities across the United States, they're voted on by their peers and by other elements, and he became Fire Commissioner. And they were like, where did he get it from? Good leadership, but leading this charge. So that is a longer answer to be like, we started really strong with fire, and we still do a lot of work with fire. However, the success there quantitatively, because we've had a good qualitative impact, like people are enjoying it, people are getting healthier, we're seeing that. But quantitatively, we ended up we decreased the injury rate by 19%, decreased sick call by over 30%. Mental health cases, people that were type 2 diabetic, people that were on their that are not anymore, the people that are on their CPAP machines that are not using them because we're interaction with the prime. So so much success qualitatively, but quantitatively, we had a $6.5 million cost savings, between 2 and 3 for the city of Boston. So that had really got that resonating, but then everyone started picking their heads up, got a lot of people's attention, how to tackle this. And it led to law enforcement. It led to a lot of work, probably in the Mid-Atlantic, Stu, like Mid-Atlantic, where DC, Northern Virginia, that whole region, Maryland,
Mhm.
it really kind of took off for us. And then and now with the National Guard, it's like really becoming a growing organization. Now we even see it's not a primary focus for us, but the professional sports.
Oh
We've,
yeah.
we've had a lot of professional sport teams that we've worked with, and it really is because they're fairly interested in what's happening in the military and the tactical space, and clearly they're trying to get a tactical edge on every competitive advantage on everybody that they're competing against.
Sure. Well, let's break it down a little bit. In tactical fitness, I teach a brand of seasonal periodization, right? Every season has its reason, so to speak, and we're focused on some element of fitness throughout that journey throughout the year, maintaining strengths but working on weaknesses throughout the year. And that works really well for phase 1 and phase 2 of tactical fitness when you're still a student or a candidate. But whenever you are the active duty operator, there's other elements that really need to be focused on. And we're talking about the big things like sleep, nutrition, stress mitigation. Um, how is it that you have kind of honed your training program to really um, get people to understand that? Because I think one of the biggest um, products out of using the term tactical fitness and tactical athlete is we're now getting our first responders and our military members to kind of understand that, yes, they are athletes,
Mhm.
and they need to treat themselves like athletes. How are you branching into, that education part, like any type of methodology that you found that works real well?
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of say athlete too, but they're an athlete, that tactical athlete. What kind of athlete works in their sport for 30 years,
Oh yeah, and no
right?
off season.
With no off season. So, whether you're training, I mean, there's not whatever your shift schedule is, if you're fire, law enforcement, even military like that, those represent challenges. So when I say customization, you have to look at simplicity, Stu. The
Sure.
simplicity you cannot, emphasize. I can't emphasize that more. That it has to be really simple, and it has to be education. But there's not an ability for these firefighters and police officers or military to go get their PhD in psychology, sports psychology, whether it's sleep science, whether it's to get their, strength and conditioning, exercise science, physiology. Like there's too much out there, but they
Sure.
have to be able to go an inch deep and a mile wide on all this stuff. So we break our curriculum down into really there's 5 buckets, and it's sleep, nutrition, conditioning, resilience, and stress management. But even we thought to that point, but those are 5 too many things that they got to remember. So we boil it down to eat, sweat, and thrive.
I love it. Yeah.
Eat being nutrition, sweat being, the conditioning and injury prevention. The thrive is like your neck up stuff. And so when we teach it, we talk about their eat, sweat, and thrive, but we also are very specific on finding your 1%. The 1% people can conceptualize. We're not looking at, these ginormous goals that they have. We're not looking for big sweeping changes overnight. We're looking for small little incremental steps that, when consistently built into a routine over time, you'll be unrecognizable at the end. And that is, our model, between eat, sweat, and thrive, and 1%. And we also, our name even originates from O2X is optimizing to the X. And you remember this, Stu,
Mhm.
going to the X is, our X changed. Our X is our target for all of, the military that are out there, future military, is like your X is the objective. Whether that was Afghanistan, Africa, somewhere in Iraq, the terrain changed, the enemy changed, the locations changed, and we had to adapt and train and be ready to, do whatever we had to get to the X, do our mission and make it back safe. For these tactical athletes, their X's always change. and their X's are dynamic, and every different tactical athlete has a different X. And individually, where you're trying to like identify your X, and let's talk about those 1% changes of getting to your X and making it back day in, day out for the duration of your career.
Yeah, I love that. Something you mentioned there about, in the military, we have the ability to, prepare for our deployments, whereas, in the police and firefighting services, they kiss their wives and husbands goodbye, and then they go into work, kind of relax for a couple hours, and all of a sudden they get pinged with 100% adrenaline rush. Have you found any useful training methodologies to help, just dealing with the the rush of the adrenaline, whether that is, all the stress hormones that come flowing with that, dealing with that during and after the event, to just help them long term? Like, what kind of, I guess, education is probably the best way to help them understand what's happening internally without, going through a science class,
Yeah.
to thoroughly understand that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that obviously heavily ties to sleep and a lot of the Thrive stuff that we talk about, the neck up. Even effective, part of that Thrive pillar, we even sit there and talk with a lot of leaders, but a lot of just even brand new recruits about it, like the art of debriefing, and conducting effective after action reviews. I bring that up is not that we're talking about the science of sleep and spiking of adrenaline rush and what that happens physiologically. I think a lot of times, for one, when they hear that alarm go off or whatever that is for every different unit, because in the military, you still have time sensitive targets. You have deliberate operation, but we still have TSTs.
Sure.
We could not choose the time and place where the enemy was going to pop up. Right. So we had to execute on things like whether it's off our cycle or for contingency operations. So, we're kind of used to those. We become very accustomed to those like erratic patterns. That's why when we were talking about this before we jumped on the podcast here, is how important it is to be like, kind of the consistency in recovery. Right. So knowing that during your 24-hour, tour, your 24-hour working group, you may have 20 plus calls. You might be taking, you might not have the ability of fully recovering or effective, getting any type of effective sleep. That's you kind of got to look towards the quality over the quantity side. So we definitely talk to them about the framework of the education, even like their birthing spaces where they sleep. Is like, hey, that's a place of recovery. You make that place like an area of, positive habits. You want to drive in there, like a good mindset that, sleeping and recovery when you can is a part of job preparedness.
Sure.
And environment and taking care of the environment. There's a lot of things that just generally people just don't know about the environment of keeping their, room cool and avoid distractions and blue lights and all those things that there's plenty of articles and information out there. Mm-hmm. But, try to create a relatively like sterile environment in that world. But knowing that, hey, listen, there's not we've trained probably like 10,000 first responders and military a year in person. And we hear it all the time. It's like, there's certain things during your shift that you just can't, you're just not going to be able to tackle. I think on a mindset wise, I think driving that solid routine, and the routine starts with, if we're going to use a fire example or a military example, the routine starts with how you prepare, before, how do you prepare to get ready for the operation? Like, you make sure that your team gear is set, your individual gear is set, you make sure that everything is like, everyone's dialed in. There's no distractors in the unit. If there are, you're kind of getting ahead of it. You're thinking about job performance and effectiveness on the X or whatever that is going to be. Checking in with your team. And then, when that box is struck or that alarm goes off or that TSD happens, that everything is built into that routine. And you eliminate that margin of error as much as you can by driving home good habits and good principles and really a very, very solid routine. And that comes from an individual standpoint. And that comes from a team standpoint. So, and then, kind of post operation, or post X, or post call, post traffic accident, whatever that is, it's your ability of, neck up to be able to recenter yourself, dial back in, and know what you need for recovery. And that happens of everything on the eat, sweat, and thrive principles. That's
right.
Hydration, that's nutrition, energy management. Fatigue management is something that we talk about a lot. All right. So you're going to be tired. How do you mitigate the risk of error? We know through science and studies that more errors occur when people are fatigued and tired, right? So what are things that we can do? And being self-aware is very important on that.
Yeah, I definitely have noticed that, as you learn some of the things that occur in those moments, and you kind of understand the physiology just a little bit. You don't have to, like I said, be a PhD physiologist to understand these, stress hormones and what's happening to you. That the education of just knowing that this is a natural phenomenon. There, everybody has stress hormones running through their body every day, and being able to metabolize those through good recovery practices is what's going to make you healthy the next day as well, right? So one thing that we always say is you got to actively pursue recovery. And sleep is a good 50% of that. Nutrition's probably the other 40% of that, and then you got that missing 10% of all the other stuff that you can do, from breathing techniques and meditation, and it seems like it.
Yeah, whatever works for that individual, like, because people get wrapped up of like, training programs and periodization programs obviously might be very, very specific from like a fitness side or achieving your objective. And I would even argue that it has to work for that individual, like the age differences, previous injuries, kind of where you're at. But all those things need to be built in there. You put a bunch of tools in people's toolbox, and they just have to try them out.
That's how you do it.
And they got to try them out. What works for me might not work for you. And you need to also give them like a fighting chance. Some of these tools, you cannot do something one time and say, oh, I'm not good at that, or I don't like that. Like, there's certain things that you just really need to put the time and effort into. You're not going to do, one set of push-ups and then be able to kind of smoke check the ACFT.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you said something very important earlier, and you just said the word consistency. And it really is all about creating a consistent rhythm of doing something that's going to produce, whether it's burning calories to lose weight, it's, helping you mitigate stress, manage stress, all of those things for the active duty operator is, and you're right, it is consistency, and having an easy program, knowing it's an easy, simple, loosely program going into it, makes that, makes it easier not to quit.
Yeah.
It's just, and you're right, it has to be something that the person can do. And if, and it all depends on their athletic history. If they like working out, they already work out on their own. I've seen it on the other end of the spectrum as well, is that some people just do way too much, right? And they're just constantly pinging themselves.
Feel prep, right?
Yeah, they're just constantly stressed out, and they're stressing themselves out during, exercise. So that doesn't help recovery at all either.
I try to get people to, there's certain things, like when I was training, like whether prepping for buds or selections, or, training for even like being like just really proficient at my job, I would always focus on the things I was like terrible at. This is like what I need to improve on. Like this is uncomfortable for me. I'm not good at this, but that means I probably should do it. I might start a little bit differently with a lot of the groups that I'm working with in the tactical environment, because, they're at different levels.
Sure.
You want to get at people, I've seen there's motivation challenges everywhere. So you want people to have fun. So we're trying to drive people into like that. I think that's one thing that's been really effective. Like, we have a really good time about our pro. You can see when people walk through the door of day one of our programs, they're very like, I know that they were up late last night thinking about what are we going to do tomorrow. And this is like, and they're totally blown away how relaxed we are, how much fun we have, how we make the exercise and the workouts not bad, but they're still like very challenging. So it's, you're not tricking people, but you're just saying, hey, listen, in order to get a good sweat, or good, get a good PT, like doesn't have to suck for you.
Right.
And you could have fun with it. Like, let's talk about periodization and even training as an older tactical athlete. Like, some people have been out of the game for a really long time and they're so overwhelmed with so much information. It's like, where do I start with this stuff?
Right.
And be like, hey, why don't you start by like making it fun again? like do something not necessarily that you're going to be terrible at and you're going to be frustrated with.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, focus on something that is going to get you to feel those good, once again, routines and habits, something gets you a little excited about it. Because that's where we focus a lot of our time. That some of that top 20% of that group, you tell them the hardest thing or anything and to dive a very, very specific program, they're going to stick with it. But a lot of the population within tactical athletes is not like that.
Sure.
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot with our work with the Mass Army National Guard. I mean, they're part-time soldiers, right? I mean,
right.
They do an incredible amount of work. They've deployed O2X. They're doing some great things for the state. They're doing great things for the country. But they're at a wide span of experiences and levels.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the some of the similarities and differences that you're seeing between a fire community and a National Guard community. What are they looking at them, they would be somewhat kind of similar, just the way their lives are set up almost. But I'm just curious, what are you saying? Not only is like they're similar and differences in their lives, but in how you're coaching them.
Yeah, well, for one, they are firefighters.
Yeah,
they are police officers.
Yeah.
They have a range of jobs. They're electricians, they're teachers, they're work at O2X. I mean, there's a wide range of these individuals that are out there. They're all every day. They're kind of out there every day in a variety of different jobs. And some of the challenges are it's a decentralized organization, very decentralized. Like, they only, they see their military unit, not as frequently as we had the luxury of every day in active duty.
Sure.
In active duty, you see everybody every single day. You can set a pretty prescribed training regimen. You can fix motivations pretty fast by saying, well, you're going to be showing up at Monday at 0600 for PT.
Yes.
That's kind of what you do. So here, and everybody, these are all like adults. And I don't say that in a condescending way, but I just say that, look, as like when you're teaching, because what we do is we come into solid principles of good teaching and education. It's about having the science and the solid education framework, but your teaching principles are going to change. They are adults. So it has to be very relevant to them. It has to be very simple. It has to be very customized, and it has to be very interactive. They want to know the why, Stu.
Sure.
And that's very important. I think in the special operations community, we want to know why. We want to know why, like, the trajectory of the bullet, what the science behind it, the evolution, because we want to be able to take that and adapt it to the environments that we're in.
Right.
We want to know those types of things. So I think that's where we get into, we make things really simple. We understand that they're all across the state, about 5,000 members. But we also know that they have quite a few challenges. They're coming in pre-baked with a lot of injuries or already challenges up front that we've seen in the past. I think they're generally nervous. I think at the point right now, I'm not talking about Massachusetts, but this, what we're seeing across the board with this new Army combat physical fitness test, is that, well, I think there's like from the didactic training, I think over 80% are going to fail. There's an over 80% failure rate. It's pretty high. Obviously, that's fairly high. And I can tell you from doing it myself, it's
a tough test.
It's a tough test. And
Yeah.
it's also, it's not something you're going to go out there like the test that of the past where you do some push-ups, sit-ups, and a 2-mile run. You may not even really need to train from what you already do.
Right.
And so this is very functional. I give Army all the credit in the world. And what we're seeing, Stu, is that people are rising to the occasion.
Nice.
They are nervous about it in a good way. Like, hey, listen, I think their nerves are an important part of this because I think we usually, with a certain amount of activation, we're going to perform, right?
Sure.
And so I think they're nervous about it. I think they're excited about learning new skills. But what we're seeing up front is a lot of people, like it went from 3 tests to 6, right? The only overlap is really the 2-mile run. There are push-ups, but even the hand release push-ups are different.
Or different. Yep.
Yeah, they're different. So
sit-ups are gone.
Sit-ups are gone.
But they replaced it with a butt kicker.
Yeah, they did, So the 3 rep max deadlift, the standing power throw, the sprint drag carry, the knee ups,
They're so tough.
Yeah, there's certain things that we're seeing a lot of potential for injury there that are going to come up, just to like proper form and
Sure.
to be able to like pick things up off the ground like a deadlift. And then there's also even the top percentages too, where if you're from a special operation or infantry unit, they're going to try to max out on everything, right? Like we're not looking for mins here. We're looking for max.
Yeah.
So people pushing themselves to the point where you're going to see a lot of lower back, a lot of hip, a lot of knee issues there. But I think the exciting part is we're seeing a lot of motivation. We're seeing a lot of like, how can I, once again, let's make this very simple for them to train and get better at. And then let's start talking about the whole soldier in mind. And I think that they're fired up about it, and we're fired up to train them because we're seeing we're in the early pilot of this for the Army.
Oh, it's so fun. I mean, I've been using it as well with our local Army guys, and just trying to create programming around some of those events. Obviously not all in the same day, but mix it up throughout the week so you can actually experience some of those events and actually train for it. I think that's one of the unique things that occurs in the military is every 6 months you have a fitness test, and typically your average soldier or sailor or Marine will, probably not Marines, they're they work out all the time, but your typical soldier and sailor will see that their PFT is coming up in a month and they'll start preparing for it. Right? Real easy, push-ups, sit-ups, and a run. However, you can't do that with this test. You really have to start building some consistency in the weight room and building up that progression of strength, and then take it to the next level of adding some muscle stamina and endurance to it of different types of energy systems, and then you still have to do the 2-mile run at the end. So they're really taxing them a lot with that 2-mile run at the end, or before they do that 2-mile run, and they may see their 2-mile run times be a lot slower than they're used to, which will be a mental challenge. Another thing too is to consider just energy, having some kind of nutrition even during the test, because you're going to go anaerobic real quick. And if you didn't really eat very well prior to that test, and you're not stored up with a lot of energy, you could bonk real soon in the middle of that thing, and then you're going to be horrible on your 2-mile timed run. So are you going about it on like every layer of this thing, from energy systems to nutrition and trying to come up with creative ways for people to train? Because here's the biggest thing I've seen is that just logistics of doing the test. Not everybody's going to be able to have all those pieces of equipment.
Yeah. So now what we're doing is with the Mass Army, like I said, like a lot of people, like 5,000 plus rare. So they've identified 1,000 right, off the bat. So those 1,000 were identified from each of their units, like kind of handpicked during their PHAs, or physical health assessments. That's kind of like when they go through and they're getting all their checkups and everything. We have this like really awesome, like 25-minute screener for each person, each of those 1,000 people. And so they're coming through on their rotations. We may be in 3 separate locations all at the same time with 4-person teams. Now, part of that 4-person team is that we have one person, kind of educate them on the O2X framework. We have them getting a virtual program and walking through the portal and mobile apps and things like that. The resources on Eat, Sweat, and Thrive, and where to train, also where to get reach back support. Then they go do the body comp. They do body composition. They do a motion capture technology, like an movement and injury reduction screener.
Nice.
And then the last part, we take all those results during this little pipeline, and then they meet with a doctor of physical therapy. And they sit down, they discuss what the results that they have, past injuries, like really a one-on-one consultation, and also like their challenges and concerns with things, not just for the ACFT. This is just, once again, we're looking at this from like
everything,
like wellness, resiliency, they're looking at,
blood pressure, height, weight. Yeah.
Everything. They're looking at, and they're doing that stuff, the height and weight, and outside of the body comp stuff and some of the blood pressure and the cholesterol stuff that's done on those other aspects. We'll be able to walk them through this pipeline, be like, we care about your performance, and we care about kind of not only the ACFT thing, but in your resiliency. Obviously the National Guard is concerned about resiliency, readiness, and retention. Those are 3 big things. But the individual soldier is like, hey, am I going to get promoted? And am I going to pass this test? And am I still going to be able to be a member of the National Guard? Like, there's all those concerns. So we kind of get some one-on-one. I think it blows their minds too. This is something that I wish I had even in the it's 25-minute like pipeline of like customized programming. Then we give them, hey, nutrition program to follow, recommendations, guidelines, injury prevention elements, and then we give them an ACFT prep program, a number one of, from low to high level, wherever they are. So that's one phase of those, right? There's another 800 that get like just online access and resources. And some of them are like trying to go to sapper school, trying to go to Ranger Regiment. They're like some of them are higher end,
sure,
but not all. But then out of those, I guess those 1,000, let's not call it high risk, but those 1,000 individuals hand selected, 100 of them are going through like didactic training. So we're putting them through, multiple days of training where we're teaching like our holistic programming to really focus on that 100. And it's really changed their mindset, because initially, and a lot of it's from meeting them where they are, to be able to, like I said, boots on the ground in their different little aspects wherever they're at, because they are very decentralized. That's a challenge. Not trying to say you have to come to us, we'll go to you. And to be able to help them with resources, just like you just discussed about the where to source equipment. And it's not saying you need equipment to train, because training in austere locations, not saying that Massachusetts is an austere location or anywhere else in the National Guard is, but
sure,
training in different environments, you have to adapt on what you have around you and figure something out, because there's no excuses at the end of the day. We're going to have to take this test. It's coming. It's happening. You're going to get two sample trainings this year, 2 opportunities to do it. But then, come 2021, the game is on, and this program is changing. And, initially, and a lot of it's messaging too. People get fired up when you're talking about performance, when you're talking about making them better, improving their performance over time. But you're looking at, in the past, that they were just like, it was a mislabeling of like, hey, this is like fat camp. And that was
right.
That was like, this is what it is. And I'm not, that's just like straight up what the name was before. And be like, now it's like, all right, this is like some tier 1 training we're getting. And now we're seeing people that didn't want to go to training, trying to self-select into our trainings. And now from our numbers, we have to usually hold up and be able to talk through people, and now we have to like almost keep people away.
That's awesome that you can reframe it like that, because I remember, here at the Naval Academy, I used to help run remedial training programs, right? Whether it was running, swimming, PT tests, whatever that was. And that was just what it was called. It was called remedial or sub squad,
Yeah.
or, it was something that was,
The donut squad, right?
yeah, not really
What was the bug
motivating to be there. I
with the
mean, but maybe that was part of it. You just didn't motivated you not to be there. I don't know, but I wasn't a fan of it then. But then we had a SEAL come down here. You may remember Dan Luna.
Yeah, no, Dan.
Yeah, he came and the um, ran the program here at the academy, and he rebranded it, called it the Brigade Training Team, and he ran it. And let me tell you, that thing ran so well because what he did is he got midshipmen who were already um, doing real well in the PT test. They came in and were like peer mentors, helped out people, helped motivate people, you know, were like buddy systems. And it turned into a leadership program for those folks.
Absolutely.
And then people would come in to start training just to get better PT scores. They weren't even close to failing. So it turned into one of those, very similar like what you're telling me. It just completely changed the mindset. And sometimes it's as simple as just rebranding and, recreating,
That's
you're
right.
still got the same mission, but you just change people's mindsets, just by
Yeah,
coming up with some logical ideas.
yeah, exactly. Kind of like thinking about, what human beings and human behavior and get what's going to get people motivated and excited for some change, which usually scares a lot of people, right?
Sure.
Like, so to get them fired up. And that's an important point because one of the a critical aspect in the success of the program with Massachusetts Army National Guard is a full-time person. Like, we have a full-time person on site from O2X that is it has the street cred behind it to be able to combine from a practitioner side, and also she's a scientist.
Nice.
Merging those two worlds together, who's our director of human performance over there,
Yeah.
and to be able to be there day in, day out to answer the full-time soldiers' needs, but be able to respond and be there kind of looking at numbers, but also helping people. That on-site specialist is huge. Just like you highlighted with Dan, like you need that for that continuity standpoint.
Yep.
Sustainability is really important. So that's been very, very effective. So we've been like, this is a 1-year pilot with them, but we've had such a successful ripple effect that it's been exciting to see where next year is going to go with the rest of the National Guard elements across the country.
That's incredible. So if you would tell me, from your experiences with O2X, some of your most favorite stories of progress of people who've gone through your training program.
Well, some of the best stories, Stu, are the ones that we hear through. So here's one from Commissioner Joe Fan the other day. I talked to him. Who just retired 3 days ago or 5 days ago, and he was talking about it, like our first workshop that we ever had, going back to rewinding to the first story. They were looking at us like kind of arms crossed, head tilted sideways, being like, well, what is it like all about? How is this going to be outrolled? And the people they selected, and we always talk about that all the time, like who you select for our program initially, because who's going to sign up for initially is guys like you and I, Stu, that are like into this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
we want to be there, but it's good to have those guys, but you want to get the people that are like the naysayers, the people that don't really say much good about a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
And that are not into this, because when they walk away and they say, this is the best training that I've had in 31 years as a firefighter, and is relating to health and wellness and performance, they were like, that has moved the dial. We had one firefighter, our first workshop that we've ever had, it walked out. And really that got the momentum going. Like, hey, the leadership, Commissioner Finn put the right people in the room, and the right people came from union, it came from management, it came from leadership, it came from people that were that needed it, like extremely overweight. And they said, okay. And then they had also the health and wellness experts of the force. And they walked out and said, all right, this has been a game changer for us. And when I hear, I know that the guys that are into it are going to love it, right? Because
Sure.
their ears are like sponges absorbing that information. But to be able to take that from the guys that are not, that don't typically like it, they don't want to exercise, they don't want to work out, and to see them come together with the like really the range of experiences, and to work out together, to start eating better together, and to say that it was like, a really effective training for them. But that's like every workshop for us, which has been great to see those minds turn. And so we're always talking with leadership, like, hey, get the right people in the workshop, get the right people there. When I say the right people, I mean the people that need it, but also the influencers there, because that really, really helps fire those people up. And then it also has a cultural impact on the organization.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you really figured out a way to get the head shed and the union people together and agreeing on something such as a fitness program. Because I remember for decades, it has been, they didn't want to test that could,
punitive
have somebody lose their job because they don't pass a fitness test. And I get that. That's understandable.
Trust, and we're there for the best interest of them, and say it's not all our information, it's going to those individuals. And I can tell you from some of the most the mental health side, Stu, we've had spouses call
Nice.
up, that were in really extreme situations where their husband's out in the backyard with a gun, and was like, they just want to talk to, their workshop lead, who's an ex-Green Beret, former Green Beret, Josh, who's been with us for a long time. He's like, he just wants to talk to Josh. And so there's a relatability when I look on the mental health side. They say, hey, listen, like, we're because you're raising your hand, or you got to take a tactical pause, or because you have some challenges, that things that you're going through, doesn't mean you're ending your days of being a warrior. And it's not like you're looking for a final resolution that's not going to help anybody. So getting people those help, we have those stories come up every single year, just like that. To be able to get people the help that they need, to feel that they have the trust to reach out to us, and that we're able to get them help. I love the stories of, like, 80 pounds or 40 pounds of weight loss, or passing the PT test, or, people feeling better, people exercising now with their family, which turns into, like, we signed up with a 5K, with me and my wife or my kids. And that's just something we've never talked about. Now we're eating healthier, but, some of those individuals that are out there that are really struggling, and, that have really gone through a lot over their 20, 30-year career.
Sure.
And that they're feeling that they can get some help and assistance and be stronger because of the experience and the chaos and the trauma they went through, and emerge stronger from that. Well, that's resilience. So those resilience building stories is like, that's the aspect, that neck up stuff, that thrive stuff, is what I really love. Those are some of the vignettes and things.
Oh yeah. I love to hear those stories. That's great that you're touching so many lives. So how do people find out more about O2X?
Well, they can go to our website, which is a great resource for kind of who we are, what we do, how we do it. That's O2X.com. Obviously, like O2X being optimized, like with O. They can go to our Instagram, especially right now with all the challenges of the gyms being closed and things like that. We're posting on Instagram and Facebook every day at O2X. So we got body weight workouts there. They can reach out to me directly, Adam at O2X.com. And excited to talk to any first responders, tactical athletes, military, and get and help any way we can.
Well, that's awesome, Adam. I think we've been going now for about 45 minutes or so. So any final words for people who are listening that are either in the process of becoming tactical athletes or already tactical athletes? Any words of advice for them?
I had some mentors. I had a lot of mentors growing up. And, I think it's really for those that are, coming up through the ranks and, are coming up and trying to have aspirations. Find those people that, that can help you. Like find those individuals that are out there that are, that make you better, that you aspire to be. This is opportunity to, develop yourself from a tactical standpoint, even from a leadership standpoint. You got to be a good follower before you become a good leader. And so to be able to kind of observe and surround yourself with solid people, I think it's really important. So I think finding those good mentors, finding the right information to train, and then, knowing that, you train hard and for the people that are active duty or that are first responders, you train hard and it'll be there when you need it. That's you got to trust your training and trust what you're doing. Eventually trust your leaders. But I think, Stu, your books were great. When I was going through at the Merchant Marine Academy, coming down, I was not a strong swimmer, and I found out, hey, this is someone that I need to train with, and we've had a long history here. So
Yeah.
and actually, from our standpoint, it was nice to see how effective and powerful books could be. And we put our learning curriculum into a book because we eventually, I think it came to, you're trying to give people more opportunity to see what you're all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
The way you had to do it, and that was your reasoning when we spoke, and so that was our reasoning for creating the O2X book.
Yeah, and they can get that on O2X.com.
Yeah, and Amazon, obviously.
Amazon,
to beat their Amazon Prime membership. That's going to be there within 24 hours. But
nice.
Yeah, we're getting, we're at about 1,000 a month right now.
Oh, great.
Which has been really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, hey, Adam, thank you so much for being a part of the Tactical Fitness Report. You're doing a great thing. Always glad to chat with you and hear about all the great stuff that you're doing. And please come back. Let us know what's next for you. We'll talk about the pro athletes next time.
That's right. Anytime, Stu.
Thank you.
Thank you.